everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Drop Lob Pod. Edic was not able to be here this week as I was not able to be here last week. We're a little bit busy right now, but fear not, per usual, when I host without him, I found a replacement that is much better than him. So, without further ado, today we have Coach Dishon Deering, currently a head tennis professional in the adult space at USTA, or assistant head professional, and also very accomplished in the field. Welcome on, Dishon.
Eh, Thanks, Nathan. I'm glad to be here. But I'll tell you one thing, though. I don't think my shoes are as big as Edix. So I'm the one that has to fill out the space, my friend.
Well, in terms of tennis skill, Coach Edick definitely is up there, but in terms of physical shoe size, I have almost no doubt you have him beat. But with that being said, Coach Deshawn is a tennis watcher as well, which is great for the pod. So we're going to be discussing a little bit of the Indian Wells 1000 tournament going on right now. We've got the women and the men all in one place in what people call tennis paradise out there in California. Have you ever had the pleasure of visiting there, by the way, Deshaun?
Unfortunately, I have never been there. All right. California hasn't been on my radar as of late, but it's always fun to watch.
Which is crazy. I have been in the area. It's beautiful. Have not gotten to attend the tournament yet, but many people describe it as the fifth major. And it is quite interesting. It's played on hard courts, but for those that watch, and for me, and I've been watching a lot of it, they're very, very bouncy and they're relatively slow. I would say they play almost closer to clay courts than they do to hard courts, which has produced some interesting results so far. Sebastian Baez, who if you've watched the pod in previous episodes, I told Edic at the beginning of the year I thought he would be one of the three players that had the biggest fall off in 2026. He promptly came out and beat Taylor Fritz about 3 days after that. Has not looked back, has looked phenomenal all year. He just took out Yuri Leshka yesterday as a pretty sizable underdog, which now that I've kind of adjusted my expectations seemed relatively feasible just because the courts play like clay. But other players that kind of have more success on clay type surfaces are seeing success there. Um, have you seen something similar to that? And also someone that I know at the USTA campus, they have plexi cushion that bounces pretty slow and plays pretty high. Do you kind of notice hard courts playing more like clay courts in your daily coaching as well?
Absolutely. I'm seeing a lot of the hard court players adding a little bit more spin to their game, which, of course, relatively in the past, it was much more flatter and faster. So a lot of those guys are really adjusting well. Like you say, the clay court players and things, players like that they simply are more comfortable on the hard courts now. Guys like I was watching Arthur Phils as well, and Arthur Phils is just playing really hot right now. I know he's coming back from injury, but those European guys, they're growing up on that clay, and they're just I haven't seen so many Europeans play more comfortable and better on hard court as of in this day and age. So it's really noticeable.
Yeah, I would second that as well. Once again, the clay guys and guys that maybe are like kind of from Argentina where they play a lot of red clay or over in Europe that usually just kind of get demolished for a couple months of hardcourt season, even kind of avoided it in the past, are now finding success on the American hardcourt swing and kind of being more likely to come over. Miami does play significantly faster than Indian Wells. That's going to be the second 1000 in a couple of weeks and the second half of the Sunshine Double, as it's called. So I think that we'll see much different results there. For example, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, who's from Spain, he's like top 20, and he sees pretty good success on all surfaces, but he's playing Jakob Mensik, who's like very much a preferred hardcourt player, and he's beating the crap out of him right now as we speak. Mensik won Miami last year, I believe. So there's definitely like differences in level for those that prefer the clay to the hard. But we also did see a little bit of scare in the first round. Good old Novak Djokovic, 38 years old, still out there, still grinding. As a person that pays attention to tennis betting lines myself, was a 10 to 1 minus 1,000 favorite against Kamil Majrzak of Poland. Lost the first set, was almost expected to lose the match and then came back in Novak fashion, 6-2, 6-1. Um, do you think there's ever going to be a point where we see a fall off in Novak's game, or do you think it's simply just going to be Novak is inevitable, Novak calls it quits before he really hits that fall off?
That's a good point because I now we're starting to see that almost across sports now. It's almost like saying, is LeBron ever going to fall off? It's hard to say if they're falling off or not, but skill wise, I think they're still going to be there. But like you say, championship wise, Grand Slam wise, I mean, you might have to go back to FanDuel and you might win a lot of money on that one. But I would never bet against Djokovic.
Yeah, I learned my lesson with Yannick Sinner when Novak was a 8.5 to 1 underdog 2 months ago at the Australian, and Edic told me there's no way that you should be betting against Novak. He could win. I called him delusional and paid the price both figuratively and literally. But as much as I am not a Novak fan, it's always fun to see him succeeding. On the women's side, Arina Sabalenka. Some people thought maybe she'd struggle. She just got engaged to her boyfriend. She came out and just freaking pummeled her first round opponent, Jacqueline Christian. Uh, do you see her as the favorite to win the women's tournament? Edic and I have kind of discussed that women's tennis might be more balanced right now than men's. Like we have Sabalenka, we have Iga, we have Amanda Anisimova up there, we have Jess Pegula up there, we have I know he hates it, but since he's not on the podcast today, Mira Andreeva up there. Jasmine Paolini. We've got
Mhm.
other players up there. I mean, even Sakkari's taken out Iga, etc. But do you still think Sabalenka is a very clear-cut favorite to win the tournament, or is there somebody you see challenging her out
No,
here?
I still would say Sabalenka's clear cut. Don't, but the only thing that's really clear cut about her right now, besides her game, is that ring that she has on her right hand. I mean, I that is really I don't know how she's playing with that thing. I mean, I might have cut myself a couple times, but good thing I don't wear the ring on my right hand, my friend, if you know what I mean. But
No, that
she's
is
number one.
Yeah, she is wearing an enormous engagement ring for those that would like to see. She's very comfortable with having a loud social media presence and a loud physical presence, but she very much is able to back it up on the court. I also am slightly off my game today, so I apologize for forgetting Elena Rybakina and Coco Gauff there. Although Coco Gauff, I can't say I see her as a threat right now to win any tournaments. If you want to give your thoughts real quick on that, I know
Oh yeah.
she's kind of had a
Oh yeah.
disaster start to the season. Do you think
I
she's able to turn that around?
I think she can. I mean, but whenever your struggles include something that only you could fix, such as your serve,
Yeah.
it becomes difficult because now you're adding so many variables that she's really fighting against herself, and
Yeah.
that's the flip side of the coin. If she could get herself into that mentally, she could get herself out of it. So
Yeah.
you never know.
And I've mentioned that we've seen Sabalenka get herself out of that before in the past. So it's definitely something that's possible. But for Coco, I know that you are not going to say that you're a more qualified coach than, say, her current coach, Brad Gilbert, etc. But what advice would you maybe give her right now if you were her coach and saw her in this spot for such an extended period of time?
Well, a lot of coaches, because I listen to coaches as well, and I look at the game, and what I would tell her is, she has to really start by giving her best 60%, then giving her best 70% or best 80%, especially when you're on tour. You want to give 100% every ball every day, and that's typically the requirement as well. But when you're struggling, you definitely have to regress to progress, right? In order to really build that confidence back. So I would really tell her to dial it back, even if she may lose a couple of tour level matches. But if her consistency is increasing, she's going to gain that confidence, and the more she sees in, the more she's going to be successful on the court. So I'll really dial a few things back and maybe make a couple sacrifices in order to reap everything later.
Yeah, and focusing on the long term, especially for a player that expects to be at the top for so long, is definitely feasible. She is still only 21 years old. Everybody so far has thought that she would be turning it around, and I will agree with that. Yeah, so it'll be great for Coco for sure. We all believe. And then on the men's side, just one last storyline. We got a couple American men, they're natives to California out there. We've got Leonard Tien and Alex Mickelson. They're younger in their early 20s. They grew up training together in California. They have both made it through the round of 64 now with Alex Mickelson defeating Ugo Humbert yesterday. Leonard Tien, just as we speak, defeated Ben Shelton in the round of 32, in fact. And then we also have the older, more established Cali native Taylor Fritz, who is known to love Indian Wells through the round of 64, beating Jacob Fernley, not as comfortably maybe as he would have wanted, but getting it done 6-1 in the third set. How deep of a run do you think that the three Americans can make? And do you think, maybe in your experience from playing juniors or anything else, or coaching them, do you think that having that home court is in fact a big advantage for these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think well, first off, what you said, Lerner TN, we got Alex
Yeah, we got
Mickelson, Taylor
Leonard
Fritz,
Tien
we
through the
got
round of 32. We got
yeah,
Mickelson
just
into the round of 32 and Fritz into the round of 32 as well.
absolutely, and that'll definitely boost Lerner a bit because taking out Ben Shelton was a big deal right away. So
Yes.
that'll give him a couple extra rounds there. But I think Lerner TN will out of those, well, I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. I like Taylor Fritz. I do like him. And I think he theoretically has the best chance to get down to at least the semis.
Hmm.
But I can't put it past Lerner TN. Like he's been playing hot. He's been the slayer. Alex is about there. I don't think he's quite there yet. He's still about that round of 32, maybe,
Yeah,
round of 32, round of 16 type of guy right now. But
I agree.
for sure, Taylor Fritz, I think, is the favorite, but Lerner Tien is just the dark horse. I think he's like the ultimate underdog, playing against these ranked opponents. I mean, he has the best chance to
Yeah,
really
yeah.
win.
Absolutely agreed. Would you right now everybody's incredibly high on Alcaraz. It seems to be everyone's theory. He's playing unbelievably phenomenal tennis. He seems to have kind of pulled a notch ahead of Jannik Sinner for the time being. Do you see any way that Sinner or anybody else is stopping Alcaraz, or is this his tournament to take home?
I mean, it's his tournament to take. I mean, of course, Sinner has something to prove.
Yeah,
He didn't get a chance to play in this tournament last year due to some suspensions, so to speak, lack of better words. But so now he might be the only one that has a chip on his shoulder to try to come and prove and say, if I was here, I would have taken this tournament, especially last year.
mhm,
But I mean, Carlos Alcaraz is just playing so good that
yeah.
you can't bet against him either. It's really him versus himself out there.
Yeah, and he got his revenge on Grigor Dimitrov, who's taken him out here in a previous year. Sinner actually about to start a match against Denis Shapovalov, who did give him trouble in a major last year, 2 years ago, being up a set and a couple points for a break. Looked phenomenal his first couple matches. I'd love to see if maybe Sinner gets challenged again. Hasn't been his greatest start to the year, especially with his opportunity to gain a lot of points. He missed January through April last year with that potential doping scandal that he had going on. Obviously, people are very divided on that. I'll leave it to our resident opinions expert Edic when he comes back
Yeah.
to speak his mind on that further. But yeah, I mean, I do agree that it's Alcaraz's tournament to lose. A lot of his issues in previous years have just purely been his focus and whether or not he cares enough when he's not playing in a major. When he wants to lock in, we've seen the greatness. He's saved match points and won multiple Grand Slams. He's done incredible things. And yeah, it seems like he's bringing that focus, that intensity to every match this year, which is honestly much to everyone's surprise. It looked like Sinner
Maybe
might be
his new
turning a
coaches, who
corner
knows?
last year going to US Open, and then all of a sudden Alcaraz wins the US Open. He dumps his coach. We think that, or maybe his coach dumped him. We can't say what happened, but we thought that maybe he'd be taking a step back, we being me, and he's arguably taken a step forward. Not to say that Ferrer didn't do incredible things for him, but clearly that man is in the form of his life right now. So I too expect him to be winning this tournament. Um, and yeah, I think that that pretty sufficiently covers the men's and women's side. Last thing I'll drop for anybody that is trying to watch or doesn't watch all the time. I've been watching on the Tennis Channel app for the most part. It's like $70 a year. I can't say it's cheap. If you watch a lot of tennis, it can be worth it. You can always catch like any of the Challenger matches on ATP Challenger TV, WTA streams a lot of matches for free on their site. And then for anybody that does wager on tennis, the sportsbooks will also give you a lot of those matches as a thank you for losing your savings and developing addiction. So, whatever you choose, there's usually a good way to watch, and I definitely recommend keeping up to anybody that's listening to us and not watching tennis, which I find it hard to believe that you're listening to a podcast about tennis and don't already watch. But moving on, because we have one of tennis' most interesting figures here, in my personal and Edic's opinion, Coach Dishon. So, Coach Dishon, you actually come from the Orlando area, correct?
Absolutely.
And you played a little bit of junior tennis yourself. You said your background wasn't too impressive, so to speak, but I've learned in my time knowing you that you undersold from time to time. What was your highest ranking you reached in juniors? How did you train? And what was your favorite part about playing juniors?
Yes. And yes, very unique upbringing in tennis. The main thing with me was I was a big multi-sport athlete. So my tennis was, I would say it wasn't full time. I did high school, I did the junior circuit. I trained while playing basketball at a pretty high level and baseball at a pretty high level, in which I didn't have much of a childhood growing up, right?
No,
So
that seems like the best kind of childhood to have, man.
not much of a childhood. I would play on a baseball team that was a few hours from home. I was the only kid
Oh.
on the team that didn't speak complete Spanish. So while the coach was talking, I would be in the back on one knee, like Captain Morgan or something like that, listening to another player translate what the coach is saying. All right. That was an interesting experience. It was way down in Lake Wales. I remember that like it was yesterday, which is south of Orlando for my any geographical folks in Florida. Same with basketball. Basketball played at a pretty high level. I went to a high school called Winter Springs. Our arch rivals was Winter Park. A young man by the name of Austin Rivers, he was there. He was like by maybe a year younger than me. And when I was a sophomore, we beat him. Went to states, Final Four. Awesome. He went from scoring 9.8 points a game to 22 points a game for his freshman and sophomore year. Not that he
Yeah.
was practicing with the Boston Celtics or anything like that.
Yeah, I think his dad
Uh,
might have been an NBA coach for about 30
just
years. And
maybe something.
it's very funny. I guess this is a very specific to Orlando folk episode, but for those that are around, Austin Rivers was an NBA player. His dad, Doc Rivers, coached in the NBA, and he seems to be very well known by everybody I know here. So he's definitely still stuck around Orlando. I know people see him from time to time. He's made a big impact on the community, but once again, this is why Edic and I insist that Dishon is interesting because we do love the tennis background, but we also love to get the perspective of someone that is a multi-sport athlete. I was also a multi-sport athlete, not nearly at the same level as Dishon, so I definitely won't even start to compare it. But I definitely understand that desire. I will ask you, did you ever expect to play any of those sports at a collegiate or professional level, or did you kind of have ideas of your limitations?
That's a good point because finally getting to the tennis part, out of all the sports I played, that was the one sport that not only I was good at, but I actually liked. All the other sports were it was all business and all business, no pleasure. Yeah, you go there, do everything 100% right, you go. Tennis was there's so many moving parts. It was mainly me and I could make of it how I wanted to. So I was still trained every day. I would have different sport practices in a day. I would play in Florida. We have, goodness, now mind you, I'm 33 years old, so
Which nobody would
not
be able
that
to
old.
tell that's
Yeah,
watching
I'm
this listening to
33.
this.
So like then we would play there was a lot of super series tournaments, for USTA. So I would play a lot of those tournaments. We didn't have the L7 through 1 system back then. It was rookie tournaments, local tournaments, super series, and then anything above that was maybe a higher level, like it could be even a national level, or say
Mhm.
sectional level, state level, all that. So it was a little bit different. So Florida tennis was pretty good. A lot of the tennis players, at least the spectrum has changed now because most of them are, I mean, my goodness, like homeschool, they're non-school. There's only a select few of kids that weren't in school, and they were the full-time, they were the players. Everybody else pretty much did play their high school and regular USTA tournaments. So I know my ranking was in the like not in the top 100, but I know I was in the hundreds for Florida. And it was
Still
because
very
it was
impressive.
pretty it was pretty competitive because even I remember my very first tournament and I saw like the points because everything was all about rankings then. And I was like, oh wow. And the 16 was like my very first tournament. Oh, it was must have been the 12s. I was like first tournament. Oh, I'm in the thousands. Yay. Right? Like I was like, wow, thousands right away. And then as you progress, it's like, wow, this is it's pretty competitive. So,
Oh,
but it
good
was the
start.
only sport that was competitive that I saw success in that I, enjoyed.
And that's actually so funny because I personally always enjoyed the team sports more than the individuals and just found that I found my success in the individuals. So it's funny to hear somebody that comes from the other perspective. But what, I guess, did you ever expect then to play tennis, or did you end up playing tennis at a collegiate level?
Yeah,
Oh,
so I played at a small school in Iowa, University of Dubuque. It's a small D3 school, and I originally was a aviation major coming out of high school, so my options were a bit limited on where I was going to go, and I ended up getting the most money to go to University of Dubuque in Dubuque, Iowa, my friend. So, and I ended up enjoying it. Um, I I would say going to school in Iowa was a great experience, and I was able to really focus on academics and tennis. I ended up, finishing my career there all 4 years. And like my last year, I played line one for singles and doubles, and it's really competitive. But I'll tell you what, they sucked me in because there's not much tennis in Iowa. They sucked me in, and that's how I kind of got into my coaching career.
yeah, I was about to say, what level was University of Dubuque? Like, was it NAIA or was it D1, D2, D3?
They were D3. So they
Okay.
were
Which
D3.
is
Yeah.
actually where my number one went in high school, and he was a phenomenal player. In tennis, I will tell people just because the depth in recent years, and we can discuss it in a minute, college tennis has taken a massive step up. I personally feel like in the United States, like the level has increased significantly. International players have been getting brought in. The pathway of playing college tennis and then going to professional has become significantly more feasible. But in past years, as that wasn't completely the case, there would be Division One teams that would field a team that was pretty poor just because tennis wasn't a sport that was taken seriously. And then on the flip side, there would be Division Three teams that just decided to focus on tennis, and they'd field teams that were competitive with, in theory, or sometimes even in practice, Division Two, and occasionally even Division One teams. So even when you hear Division Three, it definitely does not mean that it's something to be taken lightly. I do wish we had Edic on here, a former Division One player, so that I could rage bait him with some content around this. But yeah, absolutely playing college tennis at any level, always impressive nonetheless. And how did they suck you into coaching? Because that was your next step, correct?
Yeah.
Coaching in Iowa for the
Yeah.
next like better part of a decade, correct?
Absolutely. And and to piggyback about your Division 3 point,
Yeah.
yeah, the competition is very, very good still. I mean, my freshman year, end up playing doubles together, but he was ranked sixth in the nation in D3. And I mean, I saw him win the regional tournament, made the top eight for NCAA's, and it was pretty phenomenal. Like the level was pretty high, and to see that right away, I'm like, yeah, it's college tennis is a bit of a different beast. It's all about smart players. Like physically, everyone's going to be physical, but the mentality behind it is it's great. But that's
Yeah.
what drove me into coaching a bit. Let me preface this by saying this. I never thought I'd be coaching at all. Right. When I was in school, I actually changed my major from, aeronautics, the flight to criminal justice. And I got accepted in the law school on my senior year. So I was almost thinking about going the attorney route, but they offered me a graduate assistantship, where you coach tennis and they pay for your master's. And I was like, well, why not get my master's in communication and just coach tennis for 2 years? It won't hurt. Saw some success right away. they sucked me in. I got my master's, and then they offered me a assistant coach position, and they offered me a adjunct professor position. So I taught in the communications department and the English department for 5 years while coaching. And of course, the head coach decided to leave. They sucked me in again. They offered me the head coaching job. I ended up coaching at the head coach for men and women for that school, University of Dubuque, for about the head coach for probably 6.5 years, maybe almost 7.
That is incredibly impressive. And to be honest, usually that's, I think, how life works. You get sidetracked by good opportunities, and it's much better to get sidetracked by good opportunities than bad opportunities. But did you find that your teaching had any positive impact on your tennis coaching and vice versa? Like, did you think they built on each other?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you like this. Coaches have a different presence in the classroom. So not saying that this is right or wrong, right? But at the beginning of every class, since I was a coach, I knew a lot of the athletes, coaches. I would call out a particular individual, usually a football player. That's pretty easy. In the classroom, it's always beneficial to have those kind of athlete to student connections, right? Because mainly I would make an example out of a student, usually a football player, right?
Yeah.
And I would call them out. Just get off your cell phone. Just do something just bizarre, right? And then I would not have any problems the rest of the school year with anybody, right? And don't worry, I'll pull that player aside and just like, hey, it's all good. I won't tell your coach you're good, right? But you see those correlations across the classroom to the to a team setting
Yeah.
uh, for a particular sport. So yeah, it really helped teaching a lot, and it also helped me with coaching the X's and O's. Right, I could say the same thing. Like let's say it's about like dropping your racket or something for your forehand. I could say that same thing 10 different ways, and that's what teaching is. So there's a lot of good correlations.
Yeah. And with that being said, you also did direct some tournaments as well when you were out there, in Iowa. Uh, First of all, actually, I'll go back real quick. That's the ADD from our host, me. We've discussed this before on many previous episodes. How much work would you say it took in a week? I actually had another former head coach for the Florida State women's team on here about a month ago. He was my high school coach as well. His name's Owen Long. Haven't been able to release that episode yet, but we were discussing how much of a workload it is to be a head coach. And I'm wondering, since you coached both teams, how much work would you say you were putting in a week, like work hour wise, to be a head coach for both men's and women's teams?
Oh, I mean, you would put in quite a few hours. I mean, you're definitely pushing like, 40 to 60 hours. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's not like straight through. I could literally on a weekend probably work, 20 hours in a weekend,
Yeah.
and then have a regular 40-hour work week. So
Yeah.
or more or less.
When you're
So
in
you're
season,
putting a lot of,
obviously, you're
yes, when
busier,
you're
which
in
is
season.
between what, like January and April, really? December. And I mean, you get preseason as well, I
Yeah,
guess.
you have preseason. We would have a fall season and then a spring season. The spring season is pretty much the entire semester. I always say there's only two sports at the college level that I think have the longest seasons. I believe it's track and field, and it is tennis. Because in track, those guys, they're practicing majority of the year. You know,
Yeah.
there's because a lot of them have indoor seasons and outdoor seasons. We have kind of indoor season, outdoor seasons that kind of, you see the indoor national championship and then we have the outdoor national championships for tennis. So like we're playing almost year round. So they're very long seasons. So the entire school year is pretty much. But the good thing about it, as a head coach, you may have a lot of hours, but you get it all done on your own token. So you could create your own balance, if you will. But you
Yeah.
get out what you put in. Because college coaching is 70% everything else, and then 20-30% tennis. Everything else is what recruiting, scheduling, NCAA compliance, dealing with attitudes, dealing with other coaches, dealing with your own athletic department. There's a lot of moving pieces and then there's tennis practice.
Yeah. And you had to, obviously create all those plans and everything for practices, which I'm sure I've learned from firsthand experience is quite time consuming. Real quick, little one off. Did you ever get in any altercations with any other coaches in your time? Like anyone
Uh,
that's worth noting?
well, it's funny you mentioned that. I didn't have too many altercations. If anything, more altercations with other coaches on your own staff. Like myself and some of the other coaches, we've had to if you that's why it's better if you have the good facilities at your university where you don't have to share facilities. But I have been in the mix of altercations. Two coaches that were in Wisconsin, I won't give their names. They did not like each other very much. So
Oh no.
I was that, I guess we already decided not to, shut it down, the dual match. We're not playing each other anymore. But he sent me an email saying, "Hey, Dishon, just to let you know, I'm going to send this email asking him when he wants to schedule his match. I'm just doing this to annoy him. Please ignore the email." So I've even been given heads up, tipped off on disputes before they even happen. So it's a very common thing, unfortunately. I haven't been in too many with other coaches. They all liked playing me, but I've been in the middle of altercations.
Yeah, and Deshaun, at least from all that I know about him, which I think is pretty well, he's not a very confrontational person. So any coach that gets in a fight with Deshaun definitely did something to start that fight first. But then, real quick, going into the tournament directing, so Deshaun also was a tournament director, as in he was the person that organized the tournaments, he created the draws, he took the payments, he set up the matches, he got the facility, all of the great things that go on behind the scenes when you go play a tournament. And honestly, for those of us that have played tennis tournaments, you very much do notice the difference between a good tournament director and a bad tournament director. Um, I just ask you, what do you think maybe like two or three things are that make a good tournament director, and how was your experience doing that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, and my experience definitely goes into what makes a good tournament director. Because I guess I don't have my hardware, but we've won tournament of the year for the tournaments that I've ran in Iowa at least like 4 or 5 years in a row.
And you
And
still
this
do that, correct?
still do it. This year will be my 11th year running tournaments and prize money adult tournaments, junior tournaments, and green ball tournaments as well. Definitely what makes a good tournament director is just being proactive. Uh, you know, Getting things done right away. So a lot of times it is a lot of work within a week. And if you could just knock things out like as they come, you'll be in good shape. But we're not fortune tellers, but the best tournament directors are fortune tellers. We see a problem before it happens much more in advance. So whether it's scheduling matches X amount of time, knowing the weather, knowing the heat, knowing okay, after these two people are particularly done, their travel time back to another site. It's a lot of little things that if you just lay it all out and know all the moving pieces before they happen, you'll be a pretty good tournament director. The ones that are typically are not are they get overwhelmed pretty, which is very common. You get overwhelmed and uh, you know it's a customer service job. You have to be good with dealing with people. If you could deal with people, dealing with people, being proactive, um, you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, you come across some crazy people directing tournaments, I'm sure. I'm
Absolutely.
sure I mean you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you've been screamed at more than one time for something that was very much not your doing. Then again, you did run tournament of the year, so
Yeah.
maybe not, but tournament players and their parents can often get quite heated for issues they're not your own. I would just say that from a player's perspective, I love that answer, and I love hearing somebody that directs a tournament say it. Being proactive, that's just absolutely huge. I mean, I've seen tournaments where there was rain expected for the entire week. They didn't do anything about it. And then day of, they just end up with a bunch of people at the site. They didn't have a backup or a contingency plan on how to adjust the draws. People went far distances, matches got canceled. I've seen tournaments where they'll try to maybe push players into a draw that's not filling all the way up, and they'll just wait until like the night before and then cancel it. Or they'll have a tournament with only two players in a draw where you don't really get to play the rec with as many matches as you'd like. Usually tournaments try to get you two. That happened to me in my last tournament. I was pissed. I played one match. The guy retired after the
Oh
first
my
set, and I won a trophy, but it was like a $70 trophy that I didn't care about. I was still upset, and they were like, you completed the requirement. Thanks for our money. So it definitely, I think there's a lot that goes into being tournament of the year, and it definitely shows the type of person that's running it, definitely very organized, very proactive. And the type of person that is organized and proactive and competent and good at customer service is the type of person that they probably want as an assistant head professional down at the USTA National Campus. And in this case, ended up being the case because Dishon, this is where him and I crossed paths. I was working at the front desk as front desk supervisor back in 2023, or around, I think that's around when Dishon came in, correct?
Yeah, that's
2023?
correct.
Yeah,
123.
and got the pleasure of meeting him and watching him be promoted. Me, Coach Ben, who's been on a previous episode, Charlie, who's been on a previous episode, Edic, the four of us were all around and all got the pleasure of witnessing Deshaun get promoted from head professional to assistant head pro of the adult space faster than we've ever seen a coach be promoted in the history of USTA. We were convinced that he was going to be the general manager within months, but he's too humble for that, unfortunately. Anywho, just tell me how you ended up down there and what your coaching experience, I guess, was like at first, or maybe even if you want. Yeah, we'll go
Yeah.
into that next.
Yeah, of course. Well, you could add another one to the list because apparently I was the 2025 Pro of the Year at the campus.
Yes, you were, and we heard of that as well, and none of us were remotely shocked.
Yeah,
Coach
I was
Deshaun continues to stack accolades on his shelf that he clearly does not keep in the room in which he podcasts.
no, they're honestly they're in a box in a garage, if you want me to be honest.
If his boss is listening, that's not true. Sorry, Ben.
I'll be honest. If there's any, a lot of them just air. But I'll tell you, I really wanted to get back to Florida and make the change back to coaching. So I did accept a part-time role at the USA National Campus in coaching, and I thought I was going to be on the gravy train,
That's right.
nice
You
and
were
easy.
part-time. I forgot about that.
Part-time. I was just, on the gravy train. I just want to coach a little bit of tennis and enjoy Florida. That did not
Yeah. Yeah,
happen.
you thought for a while, and I'm sure I can say it now that you're established, that you might go into another career path of, I believe it was real estate
Yeah,
at the
real estate.
time,
Yeah.
family business, correct?
Yeah, family business. You have good memory on that one because I
Oh,
forgot about
I do. I remember as the guy that was running the front desk. It was my job to sit there all day and listen to
yeah,
everybody talk about their lives. But yeah,
right.
yeah, you were thinking about real estate and
Yeah,
politics and all that good stuff.
yeah,
And
because I was part time. I thought I had a little bit of time on my hands to,
yeah,
undertake a few more, endeavors. But
hmm
yeah, right away. Then it took about maybe 8 months in the coaching because when I first started there, I was actually more in the junior space more than anything. I was like teaching
hmm
the 11 to 17-year olds, different levels, a little bit of adults, but not too much. But
yeah,
then the associate head role now is adults. So now I'm
yeah,
teaching big grown adults, and then honestly, maybe 3 or 4 hours a week of juniors. So
yeah.
not a lot.
Yeah, shout out to head pro Ben Zeiser. Clearly wanted Deshaun under his wing there. Snatched him up real quick. But yeah, and you obviously enjoy coaching adults. Was it a transition for you from coaching college level aged kids and kids in general for like 10 years to going to coaching grown adults in a setting that, although many of the adults can be competitive, in general, what they're looking for out of their game, like obviously the majority of them are not looking to go compete at a tournament level, a high level. A lot of them are looking to just stay active, keep fit. They're maybe not looking to learn the technicalities of form as much. They're more so just looking to have a game that's functional and have a game that will get them exercise and playing with their friends or even the ones they're playing in tournaments. Do you find that their form is much more established and that like what you're doing as a coach is shifted a lot?
Yes, it does because well, for starters, I don't have to yell at them as much, right? I don't have to make them quit the game of tennis. That's always nice, right? But I look at it like when I was coaching more of those players, I always coach a lot for the long term. Like, okay, I want them to have these particular characteristics, these particular skill sets so that their tennis can last them a lifetime. Adults, on the other hand, it's more short term. What can I do for them right now that, like you say, make them happy, make them satisfied, make them want to keep playing? What can I do for them right now in the short
Yeah.
term? So which kind of falls out of the traditional, sense in coaching, right? It's not a lot of coaches in my way, the highway, they have a simple baseline. This is all about adjustments. What can I'm not, I'll be honest, these adults, they might still serve with a forehand grip. Okay, you like it, so be it. You want to change it?
Yeah,
No? Okay. Well, then snap a little, well, turn your body a little more so you can get the ball straight, right? Since you're using a forehand grip.
old
So
dog,
just
new tricks, old adage.
yeah, it's just a little different,
Yeah,
It's a little different, but it's all enjoyable. The adults can be a little more demanding because they're the ones paying rather
yeah.
than the juniors. The parents are the ones paying. But on that same token, when they're paying, it's kind of easier to, make that game plan on how to meet their needs.
Yeah, and I think it's a double-edged sword because they are paying so they can be more demanding, but assumedly they also want to be there more often because they're paying and they've decided to do it themselves instead of maybe sticking their kids into the game. As someone that only coached kids, deservedly so, because I wasn't going to be older than or experienced enough for any of those adults. You definitely encounter a lot of kids that were like, "Mom and Dad made me be here." Which obviously I think you probably run across. I'm sure as adults you
Yeah,
still get the occasional my friends told me to show up, screw tennis, whatever, but or I play pickleball, try this tennis thing. Ew. But yeah,
yeah,
no, you definitely it
yeah.
goes both ways.
You see
But
it for sure.
yeah, and you're still going strong there. Now you've been there for like 2.5 years. So now we'll get into a little bit of fun discussion to wrap up.
Mhm.
Do you remember your first impression of either me or Edic when you came to the campus? And by first impression, I mean like over a couple months. It doesn't have to be like, I saw
Um,
him in the room and I thought, but from an
yes.
outsider's perspective of someone that got to work or had to work with both of them.
I'll start with Edic. So my first impression of Edic, I was like, man, this guy's full of energy,
Oh, he
right? Like
is.
I when I was getting onboarded, I joined an adult camp,
Hmm.
and we give drills and different things like that. And Edic always had something to say for drill. I can't get any coaches to say much of anything nowadays. He always had something to say, which was great. And he was full of energy and active. He was one of the few coaches that still got up early and hit, and stayed late to hit.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So the passion and full of energy. That was my first impression. I was like, man, I don't have any energy to hit anymore.
Oh, dude, energy and intensity. I mean, that man runs 5Ks. He freaking works out. He plays tennis. He brings the energy and intensity, arguably too much, to pretty much everything he does. But it's definitely a positive trait of his.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hate so much when he watches it back and sees that we complimented him about something because all I really do ever is rip on him on here. But
Mhm.
yeah, his energy and his intensity definitely stood out for me as well as a student out there, and I was a big fan of it personally as well.
But when it comes to you, my friend, right? First impressions is like, whoa, this guy's from Tallahassee. I
Oh,
was like, I like, yeah. So that was the first. I was like, I don't meet too many people from Tallahassee. Okay,
shame.
that was my first one. But then I was like, oh, you are very relatable. You could talk to anybody about anything, whether it's about them or not. You could make it that connection for them. That's why you were really good at your job there and got promoted.
Goodness.
You know,
It wasn't a promotion. They actually made it very clear to me that was not a promotion, it was a lateral move.
lateral
How,
move. Okay.
however, however, there was some behind the scenes there. I wouldn't say that I got glowing reviews and recommendations there, but I personally did feel like I did a good job, but nothing but respect and appreciation to them. I always make it clear as someone that got to experience the social media team, our podcast does not claim to have any relation to or represent the campus. We just happen to be friends with everyone there. And I appreciate that they gave me the opportunity to supervise people to work in what I still think is one of the greatest facilities in the world. It's like a 22, 23-year-old. Although I do have a couple of performance improvement plans that I don't think I deserve sitting in my backpack to this day.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you appreciated talking to me up there. I'm glad I could go on a little rant right there. But I'm glad that we all got to meet, that we all got to get along. It's always great to see Dishon, even now when I go back into the campus. And I'm sure he'll be there for a while longer. Um, with that being said, my last question. we do know that you have a couple of kids, three to be exact. Um, and I always ask grown adults with children, I'm acting like I'm not a grown adult myself, but would you have any interest in getting any of your kids into tennis? Not saying, ignoring whether or not they have the athletic ability, although you can add that in. Just as a grown up that went through the system yourself, is that something that you'd like to introduce to your kids, or is that something you'd probably leave up to them or steer them the other way from?
I'll tell you like this. Only just one. I think my
Okay,
youngest. I think she'll get into tennis. The others, like my son already, he's on a travel soccer team, so he's doing a lot of soccer, but he still likes to play. So we'll go out there, but he only wants to play points. So, that's where he
that's my
finds,
guy. That's
yeah,
my guy.
we'll go
That's
out
the
there. He doesn't just want to rally. He's like, he'll pick up the ball, go out to the line and say, all right, 0-0 level.
competitor, dog.
you know.
Love it.
So that's probably about all. He's gonna get out of tennis, which is great. I'm sure as he gets older and we can play more, he'll be, you know, he'll be all right. He might get to that 3-0, 3-5
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
But I think my youngest, my daughter, I might actually like kind of put it on her a little bit more, because like I said, it is what you make of it, and
Mhm.
especially with me, I don't know, I don't like to do too much tennis at home, but
Mhm.
I think I would,
Yeah.
for one of them, not all.
That is perfectly fair. And with that, let's go into a little bit of drop or lob real quick before we
Drop
wrap
lob,
up. Always my
sure.
favorite part of the segment. You know how it goes. I'm gonna ask you if you drop or lob a couple of things. You're gonna say you drop it if you don't like it. You lob it if you're a fan. Drop or lob that coaching keeps you prepared to play matches. It trains you while you're working, and you would be ready to go out to the court tomorrow and play a match against someone if need be.
If there was something lower than drop, I would say it. I'll drop that one. All right,
I
because
expected it, but I had to ask.
yeah, you knew that I was gonna say that, my
Oh,
friend.
I
You
did.
knew.
I know you don't want the smoke, but I know that a lot of coaches are out there, and I know that once again, as somebody that worked at a tennis campus, people would always say, "Oh, you must play so much tennis. You must get so many matches in." And I was like, there is no worse way to stay match ready than to stay adjacent to what you should be doing and never have the opportunity to do it. I think that I've also seen high level players that can't feed to save their lives, so it's definitely a very or
Yeah,
can't instruct on a stroke. I mean, I'm one of them,
yeah.
so it's definitely different for sure. Um, Drop or lob in your own game. Which do you prefer, and which would you do to both Edic and myself if playing against us?
Ooh, well, see, that's where the coach mentality comes in because I will feel really bad about dropping people because I don't want to be dropped, right? So it'll be the lob.
Okay.
It'll be the lob. I feel comfortable hitting it over the head.
Okay. So you're lobbing me or Edic when we play, or is there one of us you prefer to hit one or the other, I
Oh,
guess?
I might have to lob both of you. Yeah,
Okay.
no, no, for sure I'll lob both of you. I feel
All
much
right.
more confident with my spinner than my
Yeah.
dropper because
And
usually when
that's just that's
I
just epitomizes Dishon, Mr. Positivity. He's lobbing it because he's a lob kind of guy. And
yeah.
with that, we'll go to our last question. Drop or lob, the most interesting man in the world title that Edic and I have given to you. Is your life really that interesting? You don't have to give us details. Just drop or lob.
I'll tell you that I'm going to lob it because there's 24 hours in a day. And I'll tell you what, time can be used constructively or destructively. And if I got 24 hours in a day, who says you got to sleep away 8 to 10? I got more time.
That is a phenomenal ending point. I love that statement. It's been a pleasure having you on, Deshaun. Hopefully we'll see you back here in the future and have a great night, man. Best of luck as always.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. Much love to you guys.